Hey friends, today I want to show you how to client-proof your Google Sheets. So let's just walk through a demo really quick. I have this Google integration over on my website. I'm just going to say test one, test one. Let's just submit a new record and we can look at it and it pops up over here. So this is great. This is my copy. As the developer, the web designer, I've created this copy. This is mine. I've also shared this with my client. And so here's my client's copy. But the problem is your client might come in here and say, actually, I don't want this to say name. We'll say this full name. They'll change one of these columns, right? And then the next person that submits a form, let's just put our contact in. We'll do test three, test three. The next person that submits a form, that data doesn't get completed because your client has sort of screwed this up. So how do we prevent that? Okay, so the most straightforward way to do this is to highlight the columns that you don't want your client to be able to update. Then go to Data, Protect Sheets and Ranges, and then add a description here, integration needed, and then hit Set Permission. Now, I've already shared it with my client over here, so I'm not going to let them be able to update it. Obviously, these are my emails, but I'm just going to hit Done, Save Changes, and now if my client wants to come in and adjust something over here, maybe move this over there, can't do it. Change subject to something else, can't do it. Your client can't make any changes. But what's nice, they also might need to interact with this data somehow. They might need to say, okay, we've completed these records, whatever they might be. Because we've only targeted these columns, your client can still come over here and add another column, say completed, and say done, done, just like this. And they can add new items there. And I'll mention this same setup will also work if you're using just your form to Zapier over to Google Sheets, or just Zapier over to Google Sheets. This will work just for that as well. Hey, and one more thing before we jump into this next part. This is going to be true as of today's date, but Google Sheets, Zapier, and Squarespace could all change the way their integrations work at some point, so just be aware of that. Okay, so now I specifically want to talk about the integration between your Squarespace form to a Google Sheet, direct integration. Then next we'll talk about that Zapier integration. But the way Squarespace handles it is these fields right here, these fields are mapped by name over to our fields over here. So what does that mean actually in practice? So if we look at our form, we have name, email, subject, message. These words specifically map over here. And what that means, it's those words in our first column that Squarespace is looking for as they make that integration. And what's nice about that is that means we can rearrange these however we want, maybe put subject first and email third and name in the middle, something weird like that. And then when we make our integration, we're going to do test 5, test 5. It's still going to map over. So it maps over with the data going into the right form. So this is really interesting. So it's looking specifically for these words and mapping it over there. But what that means is I can't change this to say subject new. I can't change our column titles over here. These have to be the exact match with what we have over here. If we do that, let's add in another one. Test 6, test 6. And all the data except our first one is going to come over because we renamed this column. So first, the naming matters. It's very important in the direct integration between Squarespace over to Google Sheets. And actually, yeah, you can add more columns over here. You can even put email all the way over here with these empty columns, and that's also going to work. Okay, the other thing is, where is this data? What about adding new sheets down here? So this data right here, as we fill out our form, it's always going to go into the first sheet, and it doesn't matter what the name of this first sheet is. So this is where it gets a little confusing. The names for the Squarespace integration up here, the column names are important. They have to be an exact match. The names of our sheets are not important. It just has to be the first sheet. So if I move this, let's just add a new sheet right here and put it right there. If we fill out this form again, test 1, test 1, it's going to go to this first sheet down here. Now, this sheet isn't going to get anything else. Okay, now let's talk about the Zapier integration because they're almost the exact opposite of it. So let's fill out here. I have a new form with my Zapier integration. Let's fill this out first. Zapier 1, Zapier 1. I'm just calling it, I say Zapier, not Zapier. It's probably Zapier, but I don't really know. Okay, let's wait for this to come through. Okay, so it took a quick second, but the data actually did come through. So Zapier is almost the exact opposite. Zapier. I'm going to say it a million different times this video. So Zapier maps the data based on what is the order that you've put it in. So as we're setting up our Zap over here, our Zap. So first name column, it's looking for which it maps the first name to the first column. It doesn't look for the column names. It looks for column A. So that means, just as a quick example, if we move this column over there, if we reorder our columns and we do another one of these, the data is going to be out of whack. Let's say 2. Okay, so now you can see the data is all out of whack. The last name is Otis. The first name has the email in there. The data is all out of whack because it's just putting the data in what column it thinks it's supposed to do. It's not mapping it by the actual column name. Alternatively, we can set specific sheets. So I could call this my sheet down here, and we can have, it can be the second one on there. And then we could just set that up over in Zapier. So we can just edit our form. Let's go to sheet, refresh results, and we're going to map it to my sheet. And so there's a little bit more flexibility on the sheet level with Zapier because you can target something specifically by name, but you have less flexibility on this column level because it's not mapping directly to the names. All right, so that's it. There's a lot going on in this video. You probably don't need to know all that stuff, but it's interesting and good stuff to be aware of whenever you're creating these integrations and handing them off to your clients. Where are the breakpoints and how can you mitigate those?